Okay, our final question this week is from Kirk on why we moved to Texas.
What if it's Kirk Parsley?
I don't think so.
No.
35 years ago. Kirk hasn't been here that long. Okay. Kirk says, welcome to Texas. I moved here 35 years ago and haven't regretted it. The New Braunfels area is fantastic, being in between Austin and San Antonio. So many great attractions, whether it's outdoor recreation, live music, or educational opportunities for your children. No income tax is great as well. However, property taxes might be higher than what you are accustomed to. I know it isn't a health or nutrition question, but could you talk about your decision to move to Texas and what you hope to accomplish here?
Do you want to jump into that?
Robb has been working me on a Texas move for 7 years. And I finally caved. The end. No. Well, that is how it all started. You came out here for a hunting trip about 7 or 8 years ago. No, Zoe was already born, I think.
About
so 7 years ago. And loved it. So it's kind of been in the back of our heads as a maybe one day we might do that kind of thing. And I guess really the main drivers for this move is the kids. Like we came out here to visit. I have a cousin that moved here to New Braunfels about 7 years ago. She's got 4 kids that are similar ages as our girls. And we came to visit and, walking around, there's rivers and parks and live music as Kirk mentions. And Reno is great. And we're right now we're in the spot where we're like dearly missing a lot of our Reno people and how, just our infrastructure in Reno. 'Cause obviously moving is hard. Especially
in Wired to Eat, I make that point about sleep, food, and movement and community.
Yeah.
And right now we're meeting people slowly, but we had some amazing community in Reno. Like our jiu-jitsu school was amazing. Momentum Martial Arts, Ray, Darian, our great friends, Jason and Rochelle, just laundry list of people. Your dad lives there. We had basically an adoptive grandmother, Arlie, for the girls. So, we had some really deep ties there. And we were talking about this the other day. I've moved a lot in my life. We've moved a fair amount together. I've never moved and missed anyone. And I miss people a lot on this move for sure. Yeah.
But I guess it was one of our early trips here and we just saw young people out and about and holding hands and getting ice cream and just thinking about our kids growing up. Like this really feels like a better place for just like wholesome, clean fun. Like Reno is great and there's a lot of great things to do and plenty of teenagers navigate it, but it
was just very different.
It's different.
Yeah. The first time that we went downtown in New Braunfels, like Nicky said, I just noticed there were a bunch of teenagers out, clearly on dates, and there were probably 12 or 15 live music venues in the walkable downtown area on a Tuesday night. So these kids would cruise around and go get some ice cream and watch a band and then go somewhere else and watch another band. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, I get that. And then there was Landa Park, which is this spring-fed swimming area in the middle of town. Schlitterbahn, which is the world's best water park.
We went there yesterday, actually.
Yeah,
took the girls there yesterday.
6 hours. We stayed there so long that when the girls finally got in the car, they had so much fun that they were so fucking smoked that they would just cried the rest of the day.
They were
so
we wore them out. Yep.
But it was awesome.
It was fun. We went with their cousins and
they hung out with
their
cousins. So I guess some of the other reasons, financial. Reno grew enormously. And it was getting more and more expensive to live there. And although apparently this area has grown a lot and appears to continue to be growing, we kind of went from one, kind of J-curve growth thing to the earlier phase of probably what is another J-curve growth. So financially, it made a lot of sense with regards to housing and just kind of quality of life. And also
the income tax thing wasn't really, we had no income tax in Nevada. So that
was a wash.
That was a wash.
Yeah.
The property taxes are certainly higher here. Interest rates are low right now. So that kind of it currently seems okay.
Right.
As far as that goes. Better airport.
Way better airport for me, yeah.
It's kind of a toss up because the Reno airport was like 15 minutes from our house. So it was really easy to get in and out.
Once I got up and I sat in my car, it would typically be 15, maybe 20 minutes before I was through security. But you almost inevitably needed to do a multi-flight.
It was rare that we had a nonstop. If you weren't going to Vegas or Salt Lake City or Denver,
there were like 12
you had to change
flights.
planes. Whereas we're right in the middle of San Antonio and Austin, so you can look like which airport should I fly out of? Which one has the best route? Which one, so
but it was an hour and 20 minutes door to through security the couple of times to Austin from our house, which isn't horrible. I know lots of people around the world and around the US in particular, they're like, dude, I drive an hour to go to the bathroom and that's fine. We were a little bit spoiled in Reno in that where we lived, it was like 8 minutes to the airport. It was like when the girls were going to Montessori, it was like 7 or 8 minutes, 10 minutes to get to there. Whole Foods was all of 5 minutes away. Home Depot was 6 minutes away.
Right.
So
now Home Depot's like 30 minutes
35 minutes away, yeah.
And then the school, you mentioned educational opportunities, and that's a big one too. Like we had our girls in a Montessori. We had decided that we weren't going to continue putting him in that particular Montessori, and the public school we were zoned for in Reno was not great, and the school
was actually a fairly big
that actually kicked off our whole where are we going to move was that
because we looked
thing.
and looked, and the places that had good schools were super limited, and because of the growth around Reno, we were going to kind of sell our house high, but we were just going to be buying high too. So
for something that would still need like a lot of you weren't getting what you really wanted for what you were paying for it. Right. So the school thing was a big one, and we moved here. We're in a great school district. We're actually homeschooling our children this year. It's crazy. I know. What are we doing? But we have
a few what the fuck moments off of that.
but we have a great school if we choose
to do that. Yeah. But it's interesting. Both girls kind of unprompted have just said, Dada, I really like Texas. And I'm like, why do you like it? And like all the stuff we're able to do, the fact that they're able to hang out with their cousins. We live on a cul-de-sac that's, I don't know, like the whole thing is probably like half a mile if you went from one part of it to the other, maybe a quarter mile to a half mile.
They can ride their bikes.
They get to ride their bikes. They look at critters, like they've caught so many bugs, and that's kind of hairball because there's a good number of things that will kill you around here. So like in Reno, when Sagan was chasing a frog or a grasshopper, she would just run headlong into a bush and like dive into it, and it really wasn't a big deal there. Here it's like, hey, there are these things called coral snakes and stuff like that. So we're, that's a little hairball, but both girls have said that they absolutely love it. And that's been cool because I know both you and I, between trying to work from home, getting like shit canned by Google and Facebook and like all the other stuff that we've been dealing with, we've had arguably kind of like some of the highest stress that we've had in our whole relationship.
And moving across country is stressful. Even if you're excited to do it and it's fully intentional.
It was a total gut check, and I don't know if we mentioned before, but like the movers set our front yard on fire when we moved and all that stuff. It was a grind, but despite that, we've tried to keep our shit together as best we can. We've been doing Emily Fletcher's meditation deal, Stress Less, Accomplish More. It's outstanding. Like it's really been a make or break deal, but despite us being pretty stressed out, doing the work we need to do, trying to rejigger all this stuff so that we're not trapped in this kind of Google-controlled information monopoly. The girls have been really, really happy, and it has definitely seemed like a good move for them. And so long as I can get my digestive health back to what it was when we first moved here, I'll be really jazzed.
That was a big bonus when you got here the first 3 weeks and you were feeling so great.
I felt so good. Yeah.
So do you want to mention at all what the preliminary findings are of your
test? Could mention that. So we did some blood testing. I am going to do a really thorough breakdown on this and have the tests themselves. But working with Chris Kresser, we're really trying to rule out anything gnarly like cryptosporidium and giardia and stuff like that. And what came back was a normal range, and I forget what the exponent was on this, but we'll just stick with the main numbers. A normal range for strep was at the gut
under
level
1.
was under 1, and mine was like 9.8, like to e to the 23rd, something like that. Both of them. So it was super high in strep, which Chris was like, that's a bummer because it isn't totally conclusive one way or the other what the real issue is. There definitely is literature that suggests that strep overgrowth strep isn't necessarily a pathogenic organism in and of itself, but it can be opportunistic if other things happen, and it can kind of come in and take over and push some stuff out. Again, I had kind of high methanogen levels, which in theory should make me constipated, but I am absolutely not. And so Chris dug in, and apparently if one has had a bout of really terrible food poisoning, which I have had my fair share traveling a lot, and also I think just being a little bit prone to that stuff can set me up for that. But apparently one of the toxins involved in the common food poisoning scenarios looks very similar to a protein in the gut. And once you form antibodies against the toxin, then you have effectively set up an autoimmune gut scenario. But it seems to be specific mainly to the small intestine, which what's interesting is you have an inflammatory response in the gut. And then this should be like a bonus question. It's like Robb's poop update. And so you
separate it out like that.
We'll separate it out. You get an inflammatory response in the small intestine, which then pulls a lot of fluid into there. And then that fast tracks everything through the rest of the gut. So that's actually overriding my methanogen production. At least that's part of the thought. The interesting opportunity is there are some antibiotics which only are active in the small intestine and actually have been shown to improve microbial diversity in the colon and large intestine. So there's some hope within this whole thing, but I'm still mainly kind of...
You have to do some more testing.
I have to do some more testing. I'm better. I also started doing a peptide that Doc Parsley got me on, and I'm only coming up on a week into that, and I feel better, but I don't know if it's just because I've been sick for a month and I'm starting to feel better, but it seems kind of correlative to me starting this peptide that's supposed to reduce autoimmune gut issues. And I will talk more about that in the future also, but I guess dovetailing in the move to Texas, like so far we've really liked it. If all of the people that we love in Reno suddenly moved here, that would really help. And we are getting to know people in like we've gone to Sporthalle and Gaines Bakery and met some of the folks there, going to hang out with some of those folks. So we're getting to know people. People are very nice, very friendly. We've enjoyed the scene at large, but the lack
it just takes time. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. It takes, I mean, even our move to Reno, like it's 2 to 3 years before you
start getting some traction.
I mean, but you know, we've got kids, so we can be more. Back then, we had a newborn, and so I felt like I definitely wasn't putting myself out there in the early days of Reno.
Yeah,
which ties into Jason's question, like, you know,
it's a thing to keep in mind
with a new baby.
Yeah, like even not to beat this thing to death, but maybe kind of dovetailing between both of these points. We looked at a couple of different developments in New Braunfels, and one of them for me was it had a super low speed limit. It had maybe like 200 houses total, 150,
it's a small development.
Pretty small development, but it was mellow. People drove slow. There were clearly a lot of families there, but there were the place that we actually ended up going to had a community pool, had some private river access to the Guadalupe River, which is awesome. Like it's
Guadalupe.
Super cool. Guadalupe.
The Texans say
as
Guadalupe.
You say it around here.
If you want to be on the inn, you say Guadalupe.
Well, I've never been on the inn with anything, so. But that's interesting because we've had really cool access to swimming and water and stuff like that. But this development is a little less amenable to, like the kids can ride around the cul-de-sac, but this other thing, like they literally could have ridden their bikes everywhere in that development, and there were lots of kids, and you could make the argument that we would have probably gotten to know people faster and all that type of stuff. So yeah,
but we would have
had much fewer
died with no swimming pool
access. So
okay, I think we've
that was
addressed.
A little bit more of a philosophical, like what's going on in our lives kind of thing. If you guys like that, fire off some more questions. If you guys hate it, I guess don't ask those questions. And again, you can always fast forward through
any of them. Yep.
Any of them.
Let's see. Anything to mention?
We are motoring forward on some options around, like we're going to have some new stuff rolling out soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll let y'all know about that here in the coming weeks.
And I will be at the Spartan World Championship. So if folks
Media Fest,
Media Fest, so I'll be there. I am not competing or doing anything. They keep trying to sign me up for like the VIP thing, and I'm like, no, thanks. I did CrossFit when CrossFit wasn't cool. I'm good. I'm done with that. So, but God bless all of you people who do like going and doing those things. So if you're going to be at the Spartan Media Fest in South Lake Tahoe, I will see you there. Anything else? Looking down the road, I will be at the Metabolic Health Summit in Long Beach, I think like January. And those are kind of the main things on the docket. If you want to follow us, Instagram is kind of the main thing, at Das Robb Wolf.
Submit your questions on the contact page of robwolf.com.
And we'll see you guys soon.
Next week.
Take care.
Thanks.